So right before we raced the Nora 1000 in 2018, like 2 weeks before that race, before we were taking off for Mexico, me and Rouser Rob kind of panicked and we bought another Sportster just so we'd have another frame and another engine and a bunch of spare parts. We disassembled it, brought the frame and the motor separate from each other in case we needed them while we were down there. We spent the whole week, we finished the race, and we ended up not needing any of that stuff. And we built another bike after we got back, and we called it the Spare Parts Sportster, and that was the previous version of this bike. We plated it at that time so we could use it as kind of a dual sport. And then fast forward to 2023, so we've had a lot of influence with the whole ADV bike thing. I still like crusty old Harley stuff for sure. And I was like, man, we have this Spare Parts Sportster. It wouldn't take that much for us to just build this into a full-on ADV bike. Like, what if we imagined what Harley would have done in the late 90s if they would have seen the ADV craze coming and decided to do something about it back then? What would they have built out of that platform that they had? And obviously a Sportster would be a better choice than a big twin, I think, because you just don't need big cubic inches. You need long travel, you need it to be nimble, but you need it to be heavy enough and designed in the right way so that it's actually good on the street too. It's sort of like an SUV. You know, a lot of people don't really take them off-road, but if they need to hop a curb or go down a gravel road or cross a little stream, it's not like you're doing that in a Honda Civic. You're doing it in something that's more suited for it. So that's kind of what I think of this bike as being a problem solver for those kind of environments. I can ride it anywhere. I can ride it in any weather. I can ride it where if I tip it over, it's not going to be the end of the world. I'm not jumping the doubles on it. I'm not racing Dakar with it. None of that. It's just a fun, all-around Swiss Army knife of a motorcycle. So when we started looking at the spare parts bike, there wasn't a whole lot of things that we wanted to change, but like with any bike build, you sort of define the mission, figure out what you want that bike to do. We wanted to have a kickstand. We wanted better turning radius. We wanted the ability to carry luggage. We wanted some modern navigation equipment, and we wanted to add a tower to it so that it got a little windshield. And we wanted to add a little bit of extra fuel capacity to it. So we talked about the different ways. One of the big challenges was adding fuel capacity to a Sportster. They start looking ugly if you put a giant, plastic ADV tank on it. We kept the steel tank on this one, and Hot Dog painted it in this like killer Subaru dark green, forest green color, which I thought just looked kind of cool up here. You can get 100 or so miles out of that stock tank pretty easily. And then to solve that problem, we just added a couple of 1 gallon roto packs on the back, and that adds another 2 gallons. Anywhere I'm going, I should be able to get gas within 150 miles. So I think that's enough fuel capacity for what we're doing. Our friend Tim at Gigastat redid the trees to our specs and made us some new CNC machined trees that had a little bit more room. They were offset more, and so we got a better turning radius out of it. We added bitchin' lighting to it with the Baja Design Squadron Pro. We got the yellow lenses down on the bottom, and then we got a high beam and a regular beam in the rally tower. Rob put the Moto Gadget turn signals on. They're super bright. He added heated grip, like a liner to the grips. It's got our grips on it, but with that heating element in them, I gotta say, riding in colder conditions, it's pretty darn nice. We kept the Elka rear shocks, but different spring rates on them to compensate for the luggage. So I fully loaded it and then unloaded all that gear to see what like a full weekend's amount of gear would be. And with tools and everything, it was under 50 pounds. The top box on the back is a SW Motec made for the Harley Pan Am, but we made a rear cage for it. I did the TIG welding, Rob did everything else, and that supports the XFIL 18 saddlebags that we make. We kept the XR400 oil cooler up front on the neck, which isn't as needed up here in Washington. Might come in handy, and it definitely worked in Baja and racing in the deserts in California. We redid the exhaust pipe so that it was tucked even tighter, and it points down just a little bit so that it doesn't melt the bags. The foot controls are one of the things that people building off-road Sportsters often struggle with. So we started with Hugo Moto stuff that we got a few years ago, and this was leftovers from the Frijole build in 2018. We finished off the skid plate. We modified the controls so that they were gusseted and supported from multiple positions, so they're triangulated, and we haven't had a single problem with them. For the foot pegs, we used our own punishers, and they work perfect on there, and they have replaceable stainless pins that work good as long as you have like work boots or actual moto boots. We, like the race bike, we sheathed all the oil lines and anything that's going to chafe or rub. Another overlooked item when people are building off-road Sportsters is the oil tank. The stock one is just a push-in cap, and as soon as you tip that bike over on the right side, or if it gets super hot, that cap will pop off easy. And I've seen a bunch of kind of janky ways to do it. We just took that oil tank off, and we got a bung and cap kit from Lowbrow, and we TIG welded that in, and then now it's got a screw-in cap. While we were at it, we also hard mounted the oil bag and the battery box. Up in the front, we added a Peak Design iPhone mount that's really sturdy. You can also get ones that charge, and then of course the Garmin GPS up front is super nice for nav. It acts as a speedometer, comes in really handy, pretty slick stuff. Rob made the dash, which is very kind of race inspired with the pop-out airplane or race car style circuit breakers. Rob went through the carburetor. We chose to do a CV carb on this like stock. They are just drop dead reliable. He's got a bunch of little tricks that he does inside to make them work better and work better in all conditions. We definitely upgraded the brakes. Tim at Gigacycle made the hanger for the back brake so that we could run Tokikos. And then the front has the stock brake that came with the CRF 250 front forks. Tires front and rear are Metzler MC 360s. They work great on the street, and they're plenty aggressive for off-road stuff. I mean, they're a proper dirt bike tire, but rated for this kind of weight. It rides a lot like the race bike, but with the S&S Hooligan 1200 kit, it rips. It actually is way more fun to ride than the original race bike was. It's got a lot more guts. I took it on a trip around here, rode a couple of ferries, and you always end up getting on the front with the other bike guys, and it just confused everybody. The ADV guys couldn't believe it was a Harley. The Harley guys couldn't believe that it was not brand new. And when I tell them it was a 2003, they're like, wow, did Harley make that in 2003? And that was kind of what Rob and I wanted to accomplish, was make this thing look and feel like an OE bike. And so riding it down the highway, man, I'm going 65, 70. It's not too buzzy. Even with these knobbies, you might expect it to, but I think with a little bit of plush suspension, it kind of makes up for that. And man, it's super comfortable. Like it feels like it could be a new motorcycle.